I've lived in New Braunfels going on 7 years now, and there are things that just suck about living here. And I thought maybe I'm just complaining myself, or do others feel the same way? So I reached out to other transplants and asked the question, what do you wish you knew before you moved to New Braunfels? And look at all the responses, hundreds. The responses are raw, they're honest, the truth about New Braunfels. I've done videos before on what people wish they knew before moving here. But this city is not standing still. I mean, it's growing fast, and with that fast growth comes new surprises, new challenges, and new things you wish you knew before moving here. So if you have New Braunfels as your next home, this video will be an eye-opener for you, and you will be very informed by the end of it. And you will not believe what some people regretted. It caught me off guard. That's at the end of this video. If you are new here to my channel, thank you so much for coming aboard today, because every week we are dropping new, timely, and relevant information just like today's about what it's like to live in New Braunfels. Hundreds of comments from people who moved to New Braunfels and things they wish they would have known before they decided to move here. Now, I went through all of these comments, and what I did was I grouped the most common responses, and today I'll be fact-checking those responses so that you have the most up-to-date truth about New Braunfels before moving here or deciding not to move here. The most common complaint about living in New Braunfels is the crazy growth here, especially since 2020. One person said, if I knew it was this crowded, I wouldn't have moved here. Another family said they wish they would have known how packed it was when they moved here 4 years ago. By the time they moved here, it was growing so fast, and they felt sad for the once small town of New Braunfels. Kirby says he wishes he would have known that the population would explode to the levels of the last town he escaped. Fact check time. All these people, all these comments, they are 100% on the money. Population has exploded in New Braunfels, like I said, especially since 2020. Sparked by the pandemic, a lot of families, a lot of our client families too, moved to New Braunfels because they didn't like how their states were dealing with the pandemic and all of the other built-up challenges they had to endure over the years, and they wanted to be around like-minded people in New Braunfels. Pandemic, super low mortgage rates, work from home, all of those things led to this. This was New Braunfels' population in 2020, around 90,000. In 2024, the City of New Braunfels Utility Company said the city's population reached 111,000. And today, the World Population Review projects our population in New Braunfels at 123,000. That's a net increase of 33,000 new residents in New Braunfels since 2020. That's nuts. Let me put this in perspective for you. In 2010, New Braunfels had a population around 57,000. Today, it's projected to be 123,000. That is a 113% population increase in just 15 years. With that kind of population explosion comes the inevitable explosion of these comments. Traffic is atrocious. Ugh, the traffic on 46. They're not wrong. The truth is traffic around town and on our major highways has increased with the population increase, as you would expect. You really have to plan your days a little bit more to try and avoid peak periods wherever you need to get. It wasn't like this 7 years ago when I moved here. Look at this old YouTube video we shot just a few short years ago. I mean, don't look at me, look at the background. Hardly any to no cars driving around the plaza area. Now, look at this video we shot this week on the same day we shot the one 4 years ago at the same time of day. Huge difference. So you can see that things have changed dramatically in New Braunfels. You definitely need to pack your patience and plan ahead. Two major highways, I-35 that runs north and south, and then State Highway 46 that runs east and west. Infrastructure is just something you can't get ahead of. You can't build what you don't already have here. So once you have it, then you can build it, and that's what the state did. Addressing I-35 through New Braunfels by adding lanes and also adding lanes to our main loop after we saw the growth. Now, State Highway 46 East running from New Braunfels to Seguin can be a nightmare during peak hours because there are limited lanes for now. And you have 20 plus new residential communities between New Braunfels and Seguin off 46 in the last few years, but the same number of lanes. But the state plans on adding lanes and flyovers on 46 to better manage traffic. So plans are in the works to get that done, but everyone wants it done obviously overnight. The city of New Braunfels has completed needed road improvement and widening projects and is working on more on the busiest roads around town, which includes areas that have seen the greatest residential growth in the last few years. The people moving here are absolutely terribly mannered and don't encapsulate the drive-friendly Texas manner, says a longer-term New Braunfels resident. The truth, he's not completely off his rocker. I mean, I started noticing this a couple years ago during our growth spurt in New Braunfels, started noticing more drivers honking, not giving other drivers the right of way, and not using their blinkers. Now, I am not saying by any means all transplants are doing this, but I have noticed a noticeable change in the last couple years. We did a video recently on the unwritten rules of New Braunfels and the things you'll regret if you break them. This is one of them. So allow cars to cross if you're stopped at a red light. Allow them to get through. Use your blinkers. And for the love of green lights, don't honk at the car in front of you the millisecond it turns green. Carmel says she wishes she knew she needed a car to get around. She's right. New Braunfels walkability scores suck. Below 5, so New Braunfels is very car dependent right now. But the city's master plan includes more walkable areas in New Braunfels by connecting trails with new parks and working with master plan communities to create towns within their own communities. That's taking place at 2 of our master plan communities, Mayfair and Verramindi, where both developers are carving out connections to future parks and retail, all within their communities. Our major big box shopping hub is headed in the walkable direction as well, with new homes, apartments, and condos, a farmers market on the way, trails plan, and new family entertainment on the way. So New Braunfels walkability scores should improve over the next 5 years. Okay, you're parked right now. You get out of the car, you start walking, and you lift your eyes up only to discover the next thing people wish they would have known before moving to New Braunfels: how much of a tourist town it is. Yes, 100%, I mean 1,000% true about New Braunfels. It's gonna happen. I mean, we have 2 rivers, a lake, a popular water park, 2 historical areas, downtown and green, which includes Green Hall, the beauty of hill country, year-round events and activities. I mean, we're pushing through 3 million visitors a year. That's $1.3 billion for the bottom line. So tourism, like it or not, is what makes the economy thrive in New Braunfels. I mean, it's fun living in a vacation town, but there's the reality side of living in New Braunfels, and that's the cost of living in a resort town. And there are some hard truths from people who moved here recently. Here's a big wish I would have known from newer residents. This one says, I wish I had known how greedy it was going to become within the last 5 years of charging for river parking. New Braunfels didn't always charge for river parking, but as tourism exploded, the city added fees to help manage the summer crowds and cover cleanup costs. Visitors now pay anywhere from $10 to $30, while residents with permits park free at most spots, not all, but most. And it's not just the rivers that cost you. The city started paid parking in about 1/3 of the parking spots in downtown New Braunfels this summer. The first hour is free, but after that, it's $2 an hour with a $10 maximum cap. Paid parking downtown, river parking, all of this just adds up. But the biggest surprises, and the ones you really should consider before moving here, are the everyday living expenses like property taxes and utility bills. Taxes are extremely high, says David. Property taxes in New Braunfels are higher than most transplants expect because many transplants come from California, where you have a 2% cap on home values, and it only uncaps when you sell your house. Here in Texas, we have a 10% cap on home values, and it happens every year. Where people get burned is that they don't protest their property taxes in New Braunfels. In fact, less than 30% of all property owners in Comal County, where New Braunfels is located, protest their taxes, less than 30%. And you lose out, especially in a slow market when values are sinking. You pay less taxes. When New Braunfels saw a rush of buyers moving here in 2020 and 2021 and half of 2022, naturally home values increased, and so did property taxes. Not the case since then. In fact, in many areas in New Braunfels and across the county, home values have gone in reverse, supply and demand. So please protest your taxes and make sure that you have your homestead exemptions locked in. Spiked growth in New Braunfels also impacts what you pay to keep your lights on and what you pay to keep your water running. Ryan wished he would have known how much his utility bill would be. Cost of utilities, Abrams says, you have no choice. Stuck with high cost. Absolutely, that's true. Utilities in New Braunfels have gotten more expensive. For most families on average, that means an extra $16 a month for normal use and an extra around $26 a month if you're watering your lawn. The big reason? Well, the city's growth has caused the city-run utility company to spend millions to expand and upgrade old systems, plus higher costs for labor and materials. So the spike in cost that people are seeing on the utility bills is paying for the spike in growth in New Braunfels and keeping up with demand. Another cost for homeowners is something they wish they would have known about before they moved here and bought a house here. And it's a topic we've covered on this channel, shifting foundations. You see this mostly east of I-35, where the clay soil expands when it rains and then shrinks when it's dry. That constant movement can crack walls, make doors stick, and force homeowners to spend thousands on repairs. Cost isn't the only thing. The day-to-day lifestyle in New Braunfels comes with surprises too. New Braunfels, from this bird's eye view here, just looks like paradise. But once you come back down to the surface, you start hearing about the weather in New Braunfels. In fact, we've had clients move out of New Braunfels to cooler states. This resident says she wishes she knew how hot and dry it would be. She wishes her family would have picked somewhere the thermostat wasn't stuck between sauna and the Sahara. That is the absolute truth about New Braunfels. I mean, during the taping of this video, I've had to wipe my head, my chin, my face of sweat over 100 times easily, and I'm keeping this gallon of water handy as well. Temperatures in the 90s and triple digits are common in New Braunfels between May and October. This summer was just a little milder with highs in the 80s and low 90s. I know, milder. And we had some rain too, but in August, it's like someone just jacked up the thermostat. Now we're high 90s and touching triple digits. It's why New Braunfels and South Central Texas remain in drought conditions, with water restrictions from hill country to city limits when it comes to your lawns and pools. Now we're in stage 2 water restriction in New Braunfels city limits, which means you can water your grass once a week by irrigation. One prominent hill country neighborhood called Vintage Oaks, those folks have been in a stage 4 water restriction for the better part of 2 years now. That means you can't water your grass by irrigation at all, but you can water your grass by hand anytime. And that's why you're seeing here a lot of homeowners in hill country have shifted to dryscaping. With the Texas heat comes the other part that people wish they would have known about before moving to New Braunfels: pests and bugs. It's true, bugs, spiders, lizards, mosquitoes, scorpions, snakes, fire ants, roaches, and more cringe-worthy pests, they all thrive here. It's just part of living in a dry, hot climate. When it's hot in New Braunfels, you start looking for things to do. And one of the frustrations and one of the big things people said they wish they would have known before moving to New Braunfels is that once their kids age out of those sandboxes and the splash pads in New Braunfels, they turn into teenagers. And at that point, there's hardly anything for their teens to do here. The limited sidewalks and bike racks at centers, says one transplant. So few parks and public sports areas for kids. Nothing for teens to do. I don't really agree with that. The city is working on more connectivity across the city, which will include more designated bike paths and accommodations for bikes as well. And you might have heard that we have some water here in New Braunfels. We have 2 rivers, we have a huge water park, we have a lake, we have a couple major parks: Landa Park, west side of New Braunfels, and Fisher Park, east side of I-35. We have the Texas Ski Ranch in New Braunfels, where we see a ton of teens. We have movies, arcades, and bowling. We have several new parks underway, including a sports park. This is huge. That'll have 4 soccer, 4 baseball, and 4 softball fields. There will eventually be lacrosse, disc golf, and volleyball there as well. Our new master plan community Mayfair opened its first feature park. It's feature park this year and has a bike pump track where we see teens and kids of all ages. And that park is open to the public. Yes, our first master plan community, Veramindy, has a large regional park coming, and that will be open to the public as well. Top Golf is coming to our major shopping center in New Braunfels. Our water park Schlitterbahn, like I said earlier, is a huge hit with any age. So when someone says there's just not enough things for teens to do in New Braunfels, I mean, what kind of things are you talking about? Because right now we have a lot of things for teens to do in New Braunfels, and more on the way. That feeling though of not having enough options doesn't stop with teens. LB says, I wish I would have known how difficult it would be to find any doctor within our insurance network. Literally have to drive to San Antonio for every appointment. Another resident replied to her, any doctor is hard to find. When I was pregnant, she said, places told me they had openings 6 months from now. I know this to be true because it's hard for us to find a dentist in our insurance network in New Braunfels. New Braunfels has just grown so fast. The number of doctors just hasn't caught up with all this growth. So when you do finally find a doctor, there's a good chance he or she will not be in your network. And that means you have to travel out of New Braunfels for appointments, and that's a lifestyle adjustment if you're used to having everything close by. And here is the slight surprise at the end of the video. Not every comment was a negative, I wish I would have known before moving to New Braunfels. In fact, a number of transplants responding to our question said they wish they would have moved to New Braunfels sooner. Mel said he wishes he would have known how good it is here, he would have moved here sooner. Michael says if he knew how accessible things were here, how much recreation is available, how nice people are, and how kid-friendly New Braunfels is, he would have moved here sooner. And Linda says she wishes her family knew how fun New Braunfels would become as it grew. The variety of restaurants, live music, and the things to do are endless, she says, was not the case when she moved here in 2003. So there are two sides to every coin. Let's hear your side right now. Yes, New Braunfels is going through some growing pains, but there are people who moved here, as you just heard and saw, who wish they would have moved here sooner. What about you? Do you have a more clear picture of what it's like to live in New Braunfels? And if so, do you plan on moving forward as in moving to New Braunfels, or maybe you're thinking about selling your home here? Either one of those, of course, I'd love to be your real estate resource of choice. You can email me, you can call me, or you can shoot me a text. As always, thank you so much for coming to and watching our videos every week, and we'll see you on the next one.